Hello and welcome to the Ellen Made Book Club. Today I want to talk about some young adult fiction and nonfiction for the reading event Yogist. Yogist was created last year by Mariandrea at Books and Bocadillos, and she is hosting it this year as well with Suey at Suey's Book Banter. The theme is poker fun, and so all of the books that you read can be matched with a card, and so by reading 5 books you can collect 5 cards and then you get a poker hand. They did a fantastic announcement video where they talk through this whole poker idea and system and give recommendations for all of the cards, so lots of inspiration to find there. And they also talked about why they love young adult fiction so much and nonfiction, and why they would encourage everyone to read a little bit more of it. I'm a bit more of a skeptic. I don't typically reach for young adult literature. It's more like I read something despite it being young adult. But I do know that I have read a bunch of books that are young adult that I have really enjoyed, and I have several books on my want to read list and on my shelves that I am excited to read that are young adult. So I want to participate in this event because I think it's so much fun, and I think the poker idea is so much fun. I will just list what the cards represent. The card suits are different genres. So hearts is romance and contemporary, diamonds is science fiction or dystopian, clubs is fantasy or romantasy, and spades is mystery, thriller, horror. And then the card faces represent different aspects of the books as well. So ace is disability representation, king is history, government, politics, social class or caste system, queen is female protagonist or female author, jack is queer representation. A 10 is a book with a 5-star rating on Storygraph or Goodreads, or a raving review or a blurb on the book that made you want to read it. 9, 8, 7, and 6 are books published in a certain decade, so 1990s, 80s, 70s, or 60s. 5 is a novella or short story. 4 is a book in translation. 3 is a retelling or reimagining, and 2 is anything goes, free pick, mood read, whatever. It says that the objective is to line up 1 to 5 books that will give you the most pleasure to read. And then what might your poker hand be for Yogist? So you can read 1 book and you just get 1 card. You can read 2 books and get a pair, all the way up to a royal flush. And yeah, I want to talk about some books that I have read and enjoyed and can recommend, and some books that are on my shelves, and some books that I plan to read for the event. And I wanted to pair them with the cards, obviously, for the poker hand. But all of the regular playing card decks seem to be at my cabin, and all that I could find are these 2 decks, and one of them is a Moomin deck. So they all have these Moomin illustrations on them. And then the other one that I could find is my Millennium deck, which is a bunch of people from the past millennium, people that are influential or recognizable from art and culture and politics and all of that. All that being said, let's get into the books. Let's start with some books that I have read and can recommend. The first one is Annie Dawn by Jamaica Kincaid, which is a sort of semi-autobiographical novel about growing up in Antigua. Kind of a general coming-of-age story. We follow this girl as she goes to school and, in her family environment and things like that. I thought it was okay. It wasn't my favorite read ever, but I did appreciate that it was so relatable, even though it was, someone who grew up across the globe from where I live and where I grew up. It was still very relatable, and it was also, informative and giving a sense of what it was like growing up as a person of color in that environment and in that time period, and with the British, colonial rule or effects of that, the post-colonial, So in terms of cards, I would say it's a Queen of Hearts because it's a female author and a female protagonist. And it's not contemporary like now, but it's not far enough ago that it's historical fiction and like it's the author's own life. So I don't know. I think the Hearts is kind of like a catch-all kind of general fiction. And so I would say that. It could also be, not this one, this one, King of Hearts, because it deals with race and social class and, you know, history and politics and that kind of thing. And it could also be a, how do you say that? 8 of Hearts, because it was published in the 80s. The next one I would recommend is Marina by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is a horror novel set in 1980s Barcelona, and we follow a boy who is at a boarding school, and he walks around in town and he comes across this girl, and they also come across this woman who is very mysterious, and she is visiting a grave in a graveyard. And yeah, it's a gothic story and lots of mystery and lots of creepy things. I love the writing, I love the story. It's very creepy and very beautiful, and yeah, it's also not very long. And in terms of cards, this would be a 9 of spades because it is a horror novel, so that's a spade, and the 9 is because it was published in the 90s. And it could also be a 4 of spades because it is translated from Spanish. Okay, it's kind of tricky to keep track of all the cards and things, but it's also fun. So, okay, moving on. The next one I have is Only This Beautiful Moment by Abdi Nassimian. In this story, we follow 3 men in a family. So we have the son, the father, and the grandfather, and we get to see them all in their sort of young adult years and also like older as they are in the next generation's timeline. So we have 2019, 1978, and 1939, and it's set in Los Angeles and in Tehran. So each of the men have different experiences of the different places and times. And yeah, this is a very good novel. I loved the writing and the story, and it doesn't read too young, at least for my liking. I think it's a very mature novel, and not like mature in the sense that it's like too explicit or for an older audience. It doesn't feel immature. It doesn't feel childish. It has queer representation, so it would be a Jack of Hearts. And Hearts because there's romance in this. It could also be a King of Hearts because it deals with history, it deals with the revolution in Iran, and yeah, it's one that I would highly recommend. The next one is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, who is an Australian author, and this is the first in a series, a trilogy, and I have read the other 2 books in the series as well and enjoyed them all. I listened to parts 2 and 3 on audiobook, so this is the only one that I have in a physical copy. But yeah, I think this is a very good young adult fantasy series. It also doesn't read too immature, and it's, you know, kind of high stakes and fast paced. And yeah, we're following a girl who is in a prison, and she is the prison healer, so she works there in the healing place. And yeah, there is some magical things going on as well, and there's a queen that comes into this prison, and there's the family dynamics of this girl, what's her name? Kiva. And this prison is a very like dystopian kind of place. It's very brutal and scary, and yeah, people are worked to death basically. Great suspense, great story, great writing, great characters. It's funny at times. It's got a bit of romance. There's, you know, high stakes, and it's very clean if you're looking for a fantasy that isn't, you know, explicit, with a lot of scenes that you don't want to read about, I would recommend this one because there's none of that in here. I think there's like a bit of kissing in part 3, but like it's very clean and safe and appropriate. So yeah, this is one that I would recommend, and this would be a Queen of Clubs because it is a female author, female protagonist, and it's a fantasy novel series trilogy. Let's try the other deck. The next one I would recommend is a bit more serious and emotional, and that is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa. This is set in Syria just after the revolution has started, so there's a lot of violence and sort of war zone activities, and we're following a young woman called Salama, and she works in a hospital. She's trying to save people and take care of people who have been injured in the fighting and the bombings and things. And so, yeah, she's lost pretty much everyone in her family, and the only one she has left is her best friend who is pregnant. And then she also meets a young man, and there's a bit of a romance that ensues there. And there's, discussions about staying and fighting for your country and helping people, or fleeing and making sure that you survive and then coming back and those kinds of things. So I would definitely say that there is, discussions of politics and history and social issues. So a King of Hearts. And the Hearts is for, contemporary romance. And I would also say that it could go for a Queen of Hearts because it's a female author and a female protagonist. So yeah, either one of those cards could go for this. Another book that I would recommend is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This is a contemporary novel about Christopher, who is 15 and he is on the autism spectrum. And he finds the neighbor's dog murdered, or the dog has been murdered during the night. And Christopher takes it upon himself to solve this mystery. And he starts investigating things and starts exploring things a bit outside of his comfort zone. And he starts discovering things that he did not expect to discover. It's a very heartwarming and funny and sad and, heartbreaking novel, but it's very enjoyable. It's a very quick read. I enjoyed it a lot, and I would highly recommend. And this one would be a Ace of Hearts as a contemporary novel with disability representation. I also want to mention Astrid Lindgren, who has written a lot of children's books, young adult books. The most known one, I think, is Pippi Longstocking, but she's written a lot of other books as well about different characters. I have Ronja Rövardotter here and The Brothers Lionheart, and these are my favorites of hers that I have read so far. There's a lot that I haven't read, but both of these have themes of family and sort of good and evil, adventure. They're not like strict fantasies, but there's dragons and other creatures. And yeah, they're both very beautiful stories. They're beautifully written, very lovable characters, and they're funny and sad and heartbreaking and heartwarming and all of that. So all of the things highly recommend if you haven't tried any of these yet. They could be fantasy, so I guess they would be clubs, Queen of Clubs. Sorry, I'm not really familiar with the English terminology for cards, but yeah, the Queen of Clubs because it's a female author, and Ronja is also a female protagonist. If you're reading them in anything other than Swedish, it would be a Four of Clubs since it would be in translation, and they were published in the 70s and 80s, so they could also be 7 or 8 of Clubs as well. So let's move on to some books that I have on my shelves. I have a few here that I'm probably not going to be reading in August, but I just want to quickly mention because I have them and I think they're good, and just in case you want some inspiration for what you could read. So the first one is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. There's her hair, sorry. This could be either a Queen of Hearts because it's a female author and a female protagonist, or a King of Hearts because it deals with race and, you know, social issues, politics, that kind of thing. The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, which would be, I think, a 9 of hearts. It's very difficult because in Swedish I would say hearts 9, and in English I have to switch that around, so it's a 9 of hearts. It was published in 1999, so it was published in the 90s, and I think it's like I think there's romance, or it's a contemporary novel, so yeah, I don't really know a lot about this, but it's, you know, short and popular, and I don't know what else to say about it. I also have The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, which I guess would be, oh, this could be diamonds. Okay. Wait, this is very tricky. Okay, so I guess this would be a Queen of Diamonds because it's a dystopian novel and it's written by a female author and it's a female protagonist, so right? I also have An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, which would be Queen of Clubs, I think. Female author, female protagonist, I think. And it's a fantasy novel series. So moving on to my own pile of possibilities for this event. I have a bunch of books that I'm interested to read, and I might start some of them in July, and one I've already started. And, you know, I have some that I will borrow from the library, and so it depends on when I can get them and when I have to return them and things like that. And I'm not going to get to all of these because it's just, there's too many, but I'm excited about this event now and I want to read everything. I'm just going to mention the books that I might read. So the first one is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle, a classic fantasy, and it was published in the 1960s, so this would be a 6 of clubs. Yeah, I haven't read it yet, so I'm not going to say much more about it, but this is on my pile of possibilities. I also have Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig from the library. This is the second part in the Shepherd King duology. The first one is One Dark Window, which I read last year, and that one wasn't my favorite, but it's a series, or, you know, a short series, a duology that I feel like I can finish. It's also a big book, so it would work for Big Book Summer, which is another reading event that is going on all summer long, which is hosted by Sue Jackson and Melinda at Web of Stories. I'm not doing great on that because I'm enjoying short books at the moment, but never mind. This would be Queen of Clubs, female author and female protagonist. I'm interested to see where this story is going. And yeah, that's all I need to say about that, since it is a sequel. The next book on my pile of possibilities that I would like to read is Displacement by Kiku Hughes, which I'm also going to get from the library, but that hasn't come in yet. But hopefully it will in time for August. And this is a graphic novel, historical graphic novel about internment camps that existed in the US where Japanese people were held. I think it's during the Second World War. And that's, yeah, a part of history that I am very unfamiliar with. So I would like to read that and be a bit more informed. And that would be A King of Hearts. Hearts because it's like a general fiction, I guess, and a king because it's historical and dealing with, you know, politics and social issues. It also has queer representation, I think, so that would also be a Jack of Hearts. The next book would also be a Jack of Hearts, and that is by Elliot Schrefer, which has written another book, or like another series of books that I think is very popular, or like positively received. But the one that I want to listen to on audio is Queer Ducks and Other Animals, the Natural World of Animal Sexuality. That would also work with my diversity book bingo, where one of the prompts is to read a book about animals, and so I figured this one would be an interesting one to try. I've never read a young adult nonfiction, so that's going to be interesting, and also the topic is interesting, just exploring how things work in the animal kingdom, and yeah, just making the case that different kinds of sexuality is not something unnatural, and it's not something that is made up by humans. It exists all over the place in all different kinds of species, and yeah, I'm very curious to try that one. The next one is another book that I have on audio, and it's also got queer representation, but it is a thriller, so it's going to be a Jack of Spades, and that is The Goldens by Lauren Wilson. And I guess this could also be a Queen of Spades because it's a female author and protagonist. I can't really remember off the top of my head what it's about, but it's a woman and some kind of a secret society at a college of some kind or something. Yeah, I can't remember. I talked about it in my new releases for July video, and yeah, it's just one that I know that I'm very intrigued to read, so that's on my pile of possibilities as well. The next one on my pile of possibilities I have already started because the audiobook was like 18 hours, and so I figured I should get a head start. And it's also a series, so if I want to continue that in August, I definitely could. This is also one that I have from the library and on audiobook. And it is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. And this has been read and loved by a lot of my booktuber friends. I'm pretty sure Chelsea at Libraries and Lattes loves this one. And also Shay at A Book Affair is talking very highly about this one and reading the whole series and loving it. It's a female protagonist and a female author, and it's a fantasy novel, so Queen of Clubs. It also deals with race and social issues, so I would say King of Clubs as well. And it's also a retelling or like reimagining of the King Arthur, what's it called? Legend. So it could also be a Three of Clubs. I'm also very intrigued to read The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. That has been hyped up a lot by Chelsea at Libraries and Lattes and Mimi at It's Mimi Duong. I think they buddy read the whole series and they seem to have enjoyed it a lot, and it sounds like a book that I would enjoy. There are these like gifted teens who are working with the FBI and catching killers, and yeah, that sounds like a good time. The only issue is that there's a long queue for it at the library, so I would probably have to buy it if I wanted to read it in August, and I think I'm kind of set, but I think that would be a Queen of Spades. And the last one I think on my pile of possibilities is also a thriller, and it is also by a female author with a female protagonist and queer representation, so it could also be a Jack or a Queen of Spades, and it's one that I have from the library, so I don't know if I'm gonna have to finish it before August or if I'm gonna have time to get to it, but anyways, that is Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Iyimide. We're following a girl who is starting her third year of high school, and it's a boarding school, and there's some kind of a secret society, and there are murders or girls going missing, and yeah, it seems suspenseful, and it's one that I've heard good things about, so I'm very curious to try this one as well. Okay, so I think that's gonna have to be it. This video is already very long, so I need to wrap this up now, but yeah, I'm very excited about this reading event, and I am typically, like I said, a bit of a skeptic. I don't typically get excited about young adult fiction or nonfiction, but like seeing all of the books that I want to read listed and like together and like grouped based on the fact that they are young adult literature, I am excited about them, and I feel like a lot of young adult fiction is a bit more lighthearted, it's a bit more fun, it's a bit, you know, more adventurous, and yeah, just entertaining. Anyways, enough yapping. I hope you found some inspiration and recommendations for books to read. Let me know if you're going to participate in this event, or what you think of young adult fiction in general, if it's something that you gravitate towards or something that you steer clear of, and has any of these books changed your mind and made you excited about trying it out, yeah, let me know. And thank you so much to Mariandrea and Suey for hosting the event and coming up with this fun and very confusing it's not confusing, but it's just a lot to keep track of with all of the cards and the genres and the topics and the publication date and things like that, but that tickles my brain, so very good job on that. I think it's a lot of fun and I can't wait to read all of these books. And now I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day and I will see you in the next one. Bye. So first up we have, let's do a Moomin. Why are these ones upside down? So what else is it? What is it could also be okay. Oh my goodness. 9 of spades, because it is a what is it? This is tricky. Okay. Okay, so I think, well, I haven't read this yet. Okay. And also, well, yeah, definitely. And also, it could also be a okay, right. And then we have what? Okay, hearts. Okay, 4, 7, 8, 7. Clubs. What? 1999. Okay, I have so many that I want to try. And the queen, and 3 of spades. Okay, yes, no, clubs. It's a fantasy. Do I have a 9 of hearts here? No, I do not. Yeah, I'm not gonna read that one. Well, maybe.